Worst places in the world to travel. Here we have worst places in the world to travel. Afghanistan. Afghanistan has grown much more perilous, particularly for people who are citizens of the United States, ever since the Taliban retook control of the country after the United States was forced to withdraw its forces in August of 2021. Belarus. According to Belarus, which is a close ally of Russia, the Russian military has been permitted to mass on the border between Belarus and Ukraine, which has resulted in the introduction of elements of danger and civil unrest. The Belarusian government has detained thousands of people, including many nationals of the United States, based on allegations that are frequently unfounded, claiming that those individuals have participated in political demonstrations or otherwise attempted to undermine the government. The risk of illegal imprisonment is extremely significant in Belarus when compared to other countries. Burkina Faso. The presence of terrorist activities is a major cause for concern in Burkina Faso, where several regions are currently under the protection of a state of emergency. Insurgents can launch attacks without much or any prior warning, and their targets can range from hotels and restaurants to police stations and places of worship. Kidnapping and the seizing of hostages are additional problems that continue to exist. United Republic of Central Africa. There is a high incidence of violent crimes in the Central African Republic, including armed robbery, aggravated battery, and killing, even though Westerners are not thought to be targeted targets. Civil unrest, demonstrations, and violence associated with elections and elections-related violence are additional threats. Haiti. The kidnapping of children and the ransom demand are major concerns in Haiti. Armed robberies and carjackings are also extremely widespread in today's society. Iran. Individuals who are nationals of the United States and are currently residing in Iran are frequently subjected to unlawful kidnapping, arrest, and or incarceration by the Iranian government. This is done under the fake pretext that they pose a threat to the national security of the country. Iraq. There is a persistent risk of terrorist attacks in Iraq, where even peaceful marches and protests can quickly escalate into violent incidents with little to no prior warning. U.S. citizens are also in significant danger of being kidnapped or subjected to violent acts. Israel. Israel's dispute with the Gaza Strip region of Palestine, which began in 2023 and continued until the beginning of 2024, considerably increased the likelihood of terrorist activity, violent civil unrest, or perhaps armed combat. Additionally, the conflict was still ongoing. Liberia. There is widespread civil turmoil in Libya. In most areas, there is a high level of criminal activity, and there is a possibility that gunfire between different armed groups could break out with little to no prior warning. The kidnapping and holding of Westerners for ransom is a common occurrence. Militia organizations may illegally abduct or detain persons, and demonstrations have the potential to escalate into violent acts. The level of terrorism in Mali is among the highest in the world. Armed organizations have been known to launch attacks against a wide variety of targets, including places of worship, nightclubs, Malian government offices, critical infrastructure sites, and locations that are known to attract Westerners. In addition, violent crimes like as kidnapping and armed robbery are frequently committed, particularly around local holidays or seasonal festivities. Roadblocks are sometimes used to enable the commission of these types of crimes. Mexico. Mexico is one of two nations whose current travel recommendation does not fit under the Level 1-4 scheme. Mexico is currently engaged in a drug war. Even though Yucatan and Campeche are relatively safe states, foreign tourists are frequently the targets of criminal activity in many other parts of Mexico. These crimes include kidnapping, carjacking, and even murder. Pickpocketing and mugging are only two examples of the types of crimes that can occur. Myanmar. As a result of a military coup d'etat that took place in 2021, the elected government of Myanmar was overthrown, and the country, which was already in the midst of the longest-running civil war in the world, was eventually placed under military administration. There has been a report of unlawful detentions, as well as the possibility of civil disturbance and armed warfare. Additionally, certain regions are hazardous to cross due to the presence of landmines and other unexploded ordnance. In addition, Myanmar is grappling with a lack of suitable or insufficient healthcare resources. North Korea. North Korea is regarded as a highly dangerous place for tourists from other countries due to its reputation for secrecy and the fact that Kim Jong-un, the third-generation dictator, now rules the country. Once a visitor reaches North Korea, there is no assurance that they will be let to leave again. The lives of people in North Korea are extremely carefully monitored and policed, and there is no guarantee that they will be allowed. At this time, it is prohibited for citizens of the United States to go to North Korea, after an American student called Otto Warmbier, who had been held in North Korea and imprisoned for 17 months, was repatriated to the United States in a coma and passed away 1 week later. The United States government decided to implement the ban because of the circumstances surrounding his homecoming. At this time, the prohibition is renewed for 12 months at a time, with the most recent renewal being in August of 2022. Palestine, which includes the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, is one of the 3 countries, along with Mexico, that do not now fit into the framework of Levels 1-4. As of the beginning of the year 2024, Palestine, and more specifically the Gaza Strip, was still engaged in military conflict with Israel. This situation increased the likelihood of terrorist activity, armed conflict, and civil upheaval, which rendered both countries unsuitable for tourists. Russia. Travelers from other countries, and citizens of the United States in particular, are facing increased risks and difficulties in terms of logistics when they attempt to visit Russia after Russia invades Ukraine at the beginning of 2022. Travel into and out of the nation is severely restricted. Credit cards issued in the United States are no longer valid within the borders of the country, and it is well known that Russian law enforcement officers target citizens of the United States and impose harsh punishments without provocation. An example of this that has received the most attention is the case of Brittany Griner, a player for the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, who was arrested in Russia with less than 1 gram of hashish oil. Griner had a prescription for the substance in the United States, but it is illegal in Russia. Griner received a sentence of 9 years in jail for his crime. Somalia. Somalia is a country that frequently experiences both civil unrest and terrorist activities. In addition to the widespread use of illegal roadblocks, kidnapping, and murder, schools and other facilities are frequently repurposed as cultural rehabilitation centers, which are places where individuals are unjustly imprisoned and may be subjected to physical manipulation. Terrorist attacks may use suicide bombers, car bombings, physical attacks, or mortar fire. These attacks frequently target locations that are frequented by Western tourists and have huge groups of people, such as airports, seaports, hotels, or shopping centers. In addition, piracy is a problem that occurs offshore, particularly in international waters. Somali pirates are responsible for seizing ships and either stealing them or holding the crew and passengers hostage in exchange for ransom. South Sudan. There is currently armed fighting going on in South Sudan. Numerous violent crimes, including carjackings, shootings, robberies, kidnappings, and cattle raids, are committed regularly. There have been instances of armed robberies, sexual assaults, and rapes committed against foreign nationals. Unless one is legally licensed, reporting for a journalistic publication is against the law. Even journalists who have all of their documentation in order are at risk of being harassed or even assassinated. Sudanese. Even though Khartoum, the capital city of Sudan, is reasonably safe, although tourists are nevertheless cautioned to avoid protests and demonstrations if they are brutally dispersed, the rest of the nation is significantly less stable. Because of the greater rate of terrorist activity that is known to occur in the regions bordering Chad and South Sudan, these regions are particularly risky. Syria. The United States of America has not maintained an embassy in Syria since the year 2012 because of the danger of violence that is a direct result of the ongoing civil war in the nation. Violent conflict can be found in every region of Syria. There have been reports of kidnappings, terrorist attacks, unjust arrests, chemical warfare, aerial bombardment, torture, and extrajudicial killings. Additionally, the country has had border disputes with Israel, Turkey, Iraq, Lebanon, and Jordan for a very long time. Kidnappers and corrupt governments, which may be responsible for the disappearance of more than 100,000 people, frequently target people from the United States and other Western countries. These individuals are also frequently sought after by kidnappers. Azerbaijan. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has earned both countries a level 4 warning, which is expected to remain in place until some time after the invasion is over. This is even though the majority of travel experts believe Ukraine to be a lovely place to visit during times of peace. A Venezuelan. Venezuela, which is governed by a dictatorial administration, is currently facing periodic shortages of all essential commodities, including food, gasoline, power, water, and medical supplies. Killings, armed robberies, kidnappings, and carjackings are only some of the violent crimes that are committed frequently. Last but not least, it is common knowledge that the government engages in behaviors that violate human rights, such as unlawful detention, torture, and extrajudicial killings. The Yemeni. Even though the number of people killed in Yemen's protracted civil war dropped significantly in 2022, violent terrorist attacks can still occur with little to no prior warning, particularly in public locations. A toll has also been taken on the local infrastructure as a result of the conflict, which has affected the dependability and accessibility of medical treatment, clean water, and energy. This concludes the video for the day. Have you enjoyed it? Please leave your insightful response in the section below labeled comments, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional informative and engaging videos.